From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
I'm Mike Dennison in Helena. Coming up, we break down another TV campaign ad in the U.S. Senate race. This one attacking Senator Daines.
Also, more than half of America now on a quarantine list for travel to New York, and Montana is one of those states. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. There are now 13 deaths at a Billings long-term care facility, the deadliest COVID-19 outbreak in Montana. Just yesterday, employees with Kolsch Communities, the company that owns Canyon Creek, traveled to Billings from Washington State for what they called a day focused on residents and employees. County health officials say the latest victim, a woman in her 90s, passed away at Canyon Creek yesterday. It's the 13th death in the last 15 days tied to that outbreak at the facility. Yellowstone County Health Officer John Felton says he's running out of words and says, quote, "For those who still doubt the reality of COVID-19 and its impact on all of us, I encourage you to wear your mask and wash your hands." Well, tonight, for the first time, we're hearing from leaders of Canyon Creek Memory Care Facility. The outbreak there happened after the facility refused voluntary testing from the state of Montana. As our Andrea Lutz reports, officials with Canyon Creek say those voluntary tests would only have provided a snapshot of results for a small moment in time.
Traveling to Billings from Washington State for the first time since COVID-19 appeared in their facility, leaders of Kolsch Communities say their primary focus is on residents and staff.
It's been a busy time and they come first. We have to make sure that we're taking care of them.
Chief Operating Officer Eva Arendt says that's why officials haven't addressed questions publicly yet regarding why voluntary testing was initially refused.
So we opted out, as did, I believe, 100 other communities in the state of Montana.
Kolsch, a family-owned business out of Olympia, Washington, operates over 30 facilities in 8 states. During a Zoom call the day after leaders, including the company's CEO, left Billings, they say they stand by their decision to opt out, but did promptly take measures to ensure there was no cross-contamination when the virus was initially discovered.
All it would do is give us a picture of those results for that moment in time. Residents could be exposed or staff could be exposed the very next day and test positive later in the week.
But Arendt says they want the public to know administering a COVID test to a dementia patient is complex.
The deep nasal swab test is invasive, and to a person who does not understand what is happening, it can be very scary for them.
The outbreak started with a resident who tested positive at the hospital on June 30th. The state offered its free testing in mid-June.
We have put in place policies and procedures that we feel have protected our residents well. I mean, it is June 30th when Canyon Creek had their unfortunate outbreak. And though we've been in the throes of a pandemic since late February.
Currently, 43 of its residents have tested positive with COVID-19. 2 are currently negative, while a dozen have died. Reporting in Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
And that number is now up to 13. And we do want to point out there is currently no federal testing requirements, and the rules apply differently in every state. Those with Canyon Creek say more testing is happening now, with one round already finished and another round of COVID testing on the way. Tonight, we're also hearing from the daughter of a Canyon Creek patient who recovered from COVID-19 about her experience with the facility's staff. This is 91-year-old Janet Jordan, who's been living in Canyon Creek since April of 2019. Janet's daughter, Karen, said her mother contracted COVID-19 about 3 weeks ago after coming back to Canyon Creek following a hip surgery. Karen said Canyon Creek staff kept her well informed about the situation in the facility, receiving around 10 emails from the staff after the first positive case. Staff provided many opportunities for the family to call and even video chat with their mother while visitation is restricted.
I can't stress enough how caring the staff has been, how well the staff has taken care of her, and how loving and compassionate they've been. And that is very humbling to us as a family, that there is a place where our mom can be, where we feel that she's well cared for and loved. That's priceless to us.
Now, Karen said her mother didn't experience many symptoms other than feeling more run down than usual. She didn't need to be put on oxygen or a ventilator while fighting COVID-19. Well, yesterday's death marks the 18th in Yellowstone County and is the 40th across the state of Montana. Now, in addition to the new death, the state reported 97 new cases today. Gallatin County added the most new cases with 18, while Yellowstone County recorded another 14. Montana now has more than 1,100 active cases with 49 people hospitalized. Yesterday, Wyoming reported the largest single-day increase in COVID-19 cases since the pandemic began in March, leading to another death this afternoon, bringing the total there to 25 now. Wyoming has now surpassed the 1,800 mark for confirmed cases. Of those, more than 1,300 people have now recovered. Riverstone Health is temporarily closing its immunization clinic to try and keep up with contact tracing for the influx of new cases. The staff will be reassigned for the time being to help the more than 130 cases that are awaiting investigation. Trained staff will be interviewing each person who tested positive in hopes of determining how they might have contracted the virus and keep it from spreading further in the community. The immunization clinic will resume normal operations on Monday, July 27th. Well, Montana is one of 10 states that have now been added to New York's quarantine list. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo announced today that Montana now meets the metrics for the travel advisory, which requires individuals who travel to New York to quarantine for 14 days. The quarantine order applies to any state with a positive test rate higher than 10 per 100,000 residents over a 7-day rolling average, or a state with a 10% or higher positivity rate. New York, once the epicenter for COVID-19 in America, has now seen a steady decline of cases over the last month. Well, in just a few short weeks, Billings students and teachers will head back to school amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Billings teachers are feeling some apprehension as the start of this school year holds many unknowns. According to the Billings Teachers Union president, teachers are ready to prep their curriculums, but aren't sure whether they'll be teaching online classes. The superintendent's back-to-school plan makes parents decide between strictly online or in-person schooling for their student.
I think overall our teachers are worried, one, about their students and making sure that they're safe and healthy. They're worried about their education. You don't get into teaching unless you worry about your students, and so that's one of theirs. And then they're worried about their families themselves, making sure that they're able to do what they're passionate about, but making sure that their families are safe as well. So I think that's there. I think there's also just the overwhelming, I think we all have this worry of the unknown. We don't know what next month is going to look like, and we've been in this kind of roller coaster of that since March. And so I think that's just, everybody is a little worried about the what ifs.
Shilriff said the union has a survey out to its members now to gauge their feelings about heading back to school, and she said they expect the results tomorrow. Well, yesterday, as a part of MTN's coverage of the 2020 vote, we fact-checked a pair of TV campaign ads attacking Democratic U.S. Senate candidate and Governor Steve Bullock. Today, Chief Political Reporter Mike Dennison does the same for a Democratic ad that's attacking Bullock's opponent, Republican incumbent Senator Steve Daines. The underlying issue in all of these ads is the same: health care.
The ad going after Daines is from Majority Forward, a national group affiliated with the Democratic Super PAC. It starts by saying drug and insurance companies are profiting from the coronavirus pandemic, and then says this about Senator Daines.
Daines voted to give them billions in tax breaks as they jacked up prescription prices.
The ad is referring to Daines' vote in December 2017 for the Republican tax cut package, probably the signature achievement of the Trump presidency and his GOP allies in Congress. Large corporate tax cuts in the bill certainly benefited drug and insurance companies, but it benefited all corporations doing business in the U.S., large and small, and lowered income tax rates for individuals too. And Daines pushed for amendments to the bill to increase its benefit for smaller businesses. Daines' office also notes that in 2019, he was one of several Republican senators supporting a bill opposed by the drug industry that's meant to reduce drug prices through rebates and other pricing practices. A year later, however, that bill is still pending in the Republican-controlled Senate. Majority Forward's ad then makes this statement about Daines.
Daines even voted to let insurance companies deny coverage for people with pre-existing conditions like diabetes, asthma, and cancer.
They're talking about Daines' several votes in Congress to repeal the 2010 Affordable Care Act. the law that stopped insurers from denying coverage or applying high premiums to people with pre-existing medical conditions. Daines still opposes the ACA, but says he supports protections for people with pre-existing conditions that are contained in a separate Republican bill that's before the Senate. Democratic critics, however, say that bill has loopholes that could allow discriminatory pricing by health insurers. We should also mention that Majority Forward is a dark money group. It doesn't reveal its financial donors. And Montana's disclosure laws do not apply because Majority Forward is spending money on a race for federal rather than state office. Reporting from Helena, I'm Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Well, up next on the MTN 530 News here on Q2, one Montana County Commissioner responds to accusations that he's a rebel going against Governor Bullock's mask order. And in sports, Scott joins us from Rocky, where the Bears are moving ahead with football, but not all Frontier Conference teams will be.
And coming up in weather, we are still on track for getting temperatures way up into the 90s and hundreds tomorrow. But what happens after that? We will have the answer coming up in a few more minutes.